I'm Will Hardy, husband, father, entrepreneur, hotelier, and filmmaker, and a man in the middle of his story. I've had wins, I've had breakdowns, I've had moments where I felt unstoppable, and moments where I didn't know if I could take one more step. And I know I'm not the only one. This podcast is a place where we tell the truth, where leaders, dreamers, husbands, wives, entrepreneurs can come clean about the real journey. Because together, we heal faster. Together, we get clearer. Together, we rise. This is an invitation to walk with me, not after it's perfect, but while it's still being written. Welcome to EnterUp. Guys, welcome to the EnterUp Podcast, where life's interruptions can actually become invitations. Super excited about today's guest. Couldn't hardly sleep last night waiting for this conversation. I am going to be having the great privilege of having a great conversation with my beautiful bride, Alicia, of 24 years of marriage. She is a mother of our four amazing children. And what can I say? She has been my ride or die. She has been in the trenches with me through all the highs, the lows of business, of parenting, of the messy middle, all of our own personal traumas that we've had to walk through collectively over the years. And at the end of the day, we are going to get raw. We're going to get messy. We're going to dive right into it. I think that there's not enough marriages out there that are really talking about what it looks like to be behind the scenes and the difficulties of marriage. So guys, we're going to get raw today. We're going to get messy, and we're going to dive into the conversations that I believe are going to hopefully make you feel like you're not alone in marriage, but also to hopefully bring you hope and encouragement of what it really takes to fight for each other's highest possible good. So without further ado, I'm here to introduce my great guest today, Alicia Hardy.
Hello.
Welcome to the EnterUp Podcast.
Thanks.
How you doing, babe?
I am good.
You
I'm ready
good?
for this.
I know, this is exciting. So we started these, I feel like we've been having these conversations for 24 years, right?
Yeah, I think every time you go and you reach for a phone because you're like, I wish I had this recorded. So I think this was a whole part of it.
Well, and part of my, maybe this is good, maybe this is bad. My Achilles heel is I overshare, right? I'm an oversharer. And, but even in our levels of dysfunction, you've always been a safe place for me.
I would say way more than overshare. I think you just live authentically and you can't help but have conversations about it. And
Well,
I
look at
think,
you.
yeah, that just brings it out of
Look at
people.
this, starting off with a positive
Oh, here
affirmation.
we go. Is that a challenge?
I love it. I love it. Well, seriously, thank you for being here, babe. We've had these conversations in about every atmosphere you can think of in life, right?
Yeah.
From hot tubs to laying in bed tonight, having coffee in the morning, vacation,
Lots of conversations.
lots of conversations. So that's what we're going to do today. But
Okay.
you encouraged me a while back to, really step out, get out of the boat and start this podcast, something I've been thinking about doing for a while. And life has kind of come to a place now that the film's done and the hotel's open. And we have had an unbelievable ride for 2 years moving to Bardstown. We'll dive in that here in just a second. We promised ourselves one thing, that word interrupt, right? It's a play on the word interrupt. And we've had a lot of seasons where we feel like we've had these kind of divine interruptions that have either helped reset us or reposture us, maybe, right?
Yeah.
And they weren't always easy, right?
No, I think what is very unique about our life, if I look at other people and especially moving to Bardstown, we constantly have had these little where life was kind of regular for like 4 or 5 years, and then this like pop of something that we pivot, from going from full-time ministry to flipping to more industrial flipping with, a lot more assets and money on the table,
Yeah.
then moving to hotels. So there's constantly been shifts. And I think that only comes really when you are married to someone like you who doesn't do the 9 to 5 corporate America very well.
I promised you a roller coaster ride,
Yeah.
right? 24 years ago. And of
Yeah.
course, we had no idea what we were doing.
You delivered. Yeah.
We had, well, and again, that's, I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but we'll dive into some of that. But you bring up a great first conversation, right? Married for 24 years. Was there a moment or a season when we stopped performing and decided to start truly growing together, and kind of what sparked that?
I think when young adolescents come out of college and, they're doing life, you kind of, as a kid, I think you have these dreams and goals and all of these things written in your mind of what life's going to look like. And I don't think you realize, like, when you actually get thrown into the world, like, doesn't work that way, right? All the scaffolding that you've done to see your life, anything at any point can change that. And I think for us, we went in, we met in Bible college. We came out of very spiritual, upbringing, and for us, college and things like that, that I think we were groomed to do it a certain way.
Yeah.
And I think that that carries in adolescence until things in the brain as an educator, frontal lobe, executive functioning, all of these things start happening where you start looking at your life and you realize you're in the pilot seat, right? So living your life for all these other people, that's great. But what's the point? They're not living it with you.
Mm.
And I think I will never forget. I was 37 years of age. And we started having kids at 25. So 25 to 37, I hope I had breakfast. I
Yeah.
hope I took showers, but
Yeah.
like it's a blur. It's like, it was like 4 kids, 5 years, go, 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 full time ministry. And so at 37, for me, the interruption was kind of being in a church where counseling or therapy was kind of like, that wasn't the answer, right? It was all, you got a divine understanding and seek and pray and fast and um, childhood stuff, wounds, trauma, all the things. That wasn't fully doing it for me. Just playing the role and being the good girl and doing the thing. It wasn't working.
Yeah.
I was a rager. I yelled as a mom. I was fun and vibrant, but there were definitely times when life would get intense that like I would reach for those mechanisms of control and chaos, right?
Yeah.
To feel like I could still hold on to something. So for me at 37, hot tub, I had had a girlfriend go through some crazy childhood trauma as well. And we would meet for coffee. She would talk about how she would, discuss things with her therapist. And I was mind boggled as I watched her shift. And so I couldn't help but go, hey, I'm going to try this. And so I started therapy at 37. And it was one of the greatest things that I've ever done. It made me take a really hard look at why I do what I do, who I do it for. And I think it gave me the ability to go, hey, I get to choose this life. I think sometimes in the spiritual world, Calvinism, whatever you want to touch into, you think your life's kind of planned out for you and you have to lean in. For me, I had to break that. I had to go, you know what? You're living for the audience of your family, yourself, and how you show up in the world is up to you. And the life that you get is up to you. And so for me, that was
Wow.
everything.
I'll never forget that night.
Yeah.
Scared the shit out of me.
Yeah. Yeah. You didn't know what to think about that.
Well, you to two things. One, control, right?
Yeah.
So I was a control freak as well.
Yeah.
OCD, right? Highly ADD,
Yeah.
right? We'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah.
How you've had to navigate, me as a highly ADD entrepreneur.
Yeah. Well, even this podcast is a result of the ADD. You got
Yeah.
a little space after the hotel and the film that it was like, oh, I have like 30 minutes in a day. Let's do a podcast. So it's
Yeah.
this in and of itself is the full fruition of what it's like to be married to someone
Well,
with all of that pizzazz.
I would say you brought up another good point, performer, right?
Mhm.
We were performers. I mean,
Yes.
it's by nature, nurture, choice,
Yeah.
whether it's upbringing, whether it's, how you learn, you start getting ahead of life if you can perform, right? And I was very highly addicted to people pleasing, performance. If I can achieve enough, if I can accomplish enough, then I'll be worthy, right? Then I'll be loved, then I'll be accepted. And that night, when you looked at me in the hot tub, we were having some deep conversation about God knows what.
I think it was trauma. I think we were trying to figure out how
Yeah.
we heal from trauma. How are we I think what we do very well is we're very vulnerable with each other.
Mm.
And so we can easily go into conversations and realize maybe we're talking about somebody, maybe we're,
Yeah.
putting someone down, and then we'll quickly realize it and we'll be like, oh my gosh, that's not.
Yeah.
I personally found the more religious I was, religious
Mhm.
being the operative word, the more judgmental, the more backbiting, and the more bitter. So for me, the more I have watched us heal from trauma, the conversations turn from watching other people and making all of these observations and judgments to,
Sure.
oh my goodness, look at my life, or how can I show up better as a parent, an educator? How can I show up as a business person? Or, I mean, as a boutique owner, how do I just love someone well that walks into my shop one day that
Sure.
may just need a smile or a hug,
Yeah.
And so I think what we do very well is we can own our stuff and watch when we're operating not in the best versions of ourselves,
Yeah.
and quickly, pivot with each other of like, hey, this is not this is not how I want to show up in the world.
Yeah. You know, you think about that, and I'm sure we were probably having an argument or a disagreement
Yeah.
that night about life, the pressures. Again, we threw ourselves kind of into the deep end, right? 4 kids in 5 years. At
Well,
this
and
point,
meeting 2 months later, getting married.
yeah,
I mean, we're getting
we
engaged and
were
four
married
months later
within
married.
6 months
Of meeting,
of
not
meeting,
dating.
right? We would
Yeah.
never encourage our children to
Never,
probably do that.
never.
But that's a whole nother story we'll share in probably another podcast. But that was our journey, right? And a couple things. One, vulnerability, right?
Yeah.
Transparency. We were never taught this. Like these were languages we didn't know, number
Correct.
one.
Well, and I will say, if you were to ask me what's a 101 on, therapy in general, and I'm referring to talk therapy, and there's a whole lot of other methods. One of my favorite being the Encore method, where you lean into your body knowing how to heal itself.
Yeah.
That's something I've been in for about 2 years, and that has been very eye opening.
Yeah.
But I would say what therapy does is, and the work of shame resilience is what allows you just to be an authentic, vulnerable human, own the things that you see in yourself, and actually put up boundaries in the things that's toxic in your environment.
Oh, boundaries.
Yeah. Well, and then if you can release shame, right? And you can talk about things you did in your childhood, or talk about things you did horrible as a parent, or the ways you didn't show up well in your marriage, you can work those things out. You can massage them. You can show up differently. But when shame is so thick on you that you can't own those things, then you're not having vulnerable conversations. You're probably not even able to even look at yourself to own the toxic things or the amazing things. I think what's gotten me through some trauma, toxic things is really being able to see myself like the divine sees me and go, you know what? I'm doing the work. I'm showing up well.
Sure.
I'm giving it all I got. Yes, maybe I need to work on that and this. So I would say, what's funny about shame work is you think it's going to have this exposure and you're going to be like, ick. What it allows you to do is love yourself really well and tweak the things that maybe aren't serving you and the things that you want for your future. And I think that has also been one of the greatest gifts we can give our kids. On that note, I was, thinking last night about us, having these conversations. And if there is anything that in that work of therapy that I would say has served me the best, and hopefully my kids can speak to this,
See the work.
is, well, understanding agency. I think a lot of my theology work that I've done is understanding the greatest gift that we got from the divine is our own free choice, right? And us being able to walk that out in the world is what makes us the divine's unique being, right? And so here's what I see us not doing well as parents is um we don't allow that to happen with our kids. We think that they're an extension of us and we want them to show up a certain way. In fact, we are the ones that probably perpetuate the shame card, right? We're like, oh, you got my last name. You're showing up in my hometown. Like, shake his hand, look him in the eye, do the things. And I'm all about respect and teaching that, but you have to let them become their own being.
Yeah.
And that
That's
means
good.
you got to pull back on control, which means you probably are going to have to do some trauma work because control is probably going to be the manager, or at least, especially for us as people pleasers and performers,
Sure.
control was our gridlock, right? Like, and it was
100%.
what gave us our steroids.
So two things I'm thinking. Number one, you go back to the religion piece of it, right?
Yeah, that's that's like 5 podcasts in a row.
But I think again, I don't think we're talking about that enough as a society and as a community, because I would say that there's this preconceived notion that if you find your spirituality or if you find your faith, right, in any religion, wherever that person is at, but it's almost as if, now you've arrived, right? Now that you should be healed, you should be, restored, if you will. And how many years, I mean, you think about it. I mean, we live such a toxic, habitual lifestyle with each other, right? It just from not even understanding healthy communication, and that's the thing is like I never wanted to be disrespectful to you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you didn't want to be disrespectful or dishonor me in any way, but we just couldn't help but not do that. I mean, it was habitual traits. It was what we had seen. It's what we had lived, and the boundary piece. I want to hit on the boundary piece
Yeah.
because that night when you said that dreaded word that started with a T, therapy,
Yeah.
right? I immediately remember looking at you going, "We don't need therapy. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
We have our faith, we have our religion. This is crazy. But you said what we're doing is not working." And I guess that was hard for me to hear because I guess I knew that was the truth. Like there was a reality to that. And I saw you go on this journey, right? And I remember going, that's fine. You do whatever you have to do. Fix yourself, heal yourself, cleanse yourself, as if I had it all together, right? And then to see the results of the things that started changing inside of you, number one, it provoked me to jealousy, but it also again scared me because I couldn't control the old Alicia I knew, right? Like we had to find a new level of communication and those boundaries that you started setting. Woo, you talking about scary, right?
Yeah.
Because the even though it was our dysfunction, it was our version of crazy, right? It was our own brand of crazy
Well, and
that we had built.
what you're talking about is the boundary scared you because you weren't able to operate as a people pleaser.
Mm.
Because when you set a boundary, you're not going to be the liked person in the room.
Yeah,
You're going to be the person that's like almost it looks selfish, right? It looks very
sure.
self-centered. Oh, we can't go past your thing. What I have learned about boundaries is they're not walls, they're gates. Um, but that gate is operating on how someone shows up in the world.
Yeah,
And if you show up self centered, and if you show up to where life is about you, or you're going to bring your rage into my world or your control into my world, since it's my world and I'm the one in the
yeah.
pilot seat.
You get to choose what's
Yeah.
brought into it.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't need the extra. I'm raising 4 kids in 5 years. I mean, I had four almost in diapers with a triplet stroller
yeah.
trying to survive just crossing the street. No, no one's got time for that.
Man. Well, it's that was the moment, I believe, just like you said, that was that awakening inside of us, an interruption, right?
Yeah.
A moment in our lives that we knew things that had to change if we were really going to become the healthiest versions of what we want to be. And guess what? That road has not been easy,
No.
right?
Well, you have
Not at all.
no. Well, we had the religion card. We also have society's card, where it says, "Hey, this looks a certain way." I know we've
Yeah.
come leaps and bounds in, women being able to be in the workplace, get paid the same, do all of the things. But I think when you come out of that religious world, it's
Yeah.
about 30 years behind the
Yeah.
rest of the world,
Yeah.
right? And so, gosh, I'm talking about allowing your kids to have agency. I know marriages where wives don't have
Yeah.
agency,
100%.
which
Well, listen, I grew up in that old school way of thinking,
yeah,
right?
you shake the tea glass and the tea gets poured in.
Exactly. And come from a long line of good men in my family,
Yeah.
but just have this understanding that, the man works, right? The woman takes care of the kids and does her kind of thing.
It
And
probably works too,
and,
but
and, and well, of course,
yeah,
harder, right?
yeah,
My mom and dad were a little bit different. She also worked a full-time
yeah,
job. So I saw those kind of strains and stresses as well that we all experience. But yeah, I just remember like that's the way I wanted to live my life. I wanted a wife that was barefoot and pregnant,
yeah,
right? I wanted a wife that would stay at home and, I would go fight the dragons and, take off the armor at the
yeah,
front door, come in, dinner would be made, you maybe a little head scratch, well done, buddy,
yeah,
and that was hard, right? I mean, but we chose, I guess, collectively as a family to homeschool the kids. And when I say we, you carried the grunt of all that while
yeah.
I was in the workspace. And that was a huge sacrifice to make, right? Like looking back on that.
Well, I think you do things for what you want. So even though maybe I knew I was the pilot,
Yeah.
here's what I want. Did I intentionally go out to homeschool? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But when you're having to leave because we have homes in the mountains or at the beach that have to be checked on, I I didn't get married to like be a
Yeah.
single wife raising
Yeah.
kids,
Yeah.
right? So for me, the means by which to keep our family together and travel being a huge part of education, this is what it took to get
Yeah.
what you wanted.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't do the fullness of what you want, but you want the end result. So
Sure.
for me, the end result were was to like have kids that could make their own choices, not be influenced by other people's opinions, and we could be free to
Yeah.
do whatever we needed to do. And I'm a huge fan of kids, especially, going through puberty, of getting 12 hours of sleep.
Right.
So I'm very grateful that um, through those years, I think where people have harder times, we were just able to be together. I'm not saying it was super easy, but I think the
Sure.
choices that we made served our kids even. We didn't have a whole lot of the chaotic teen world.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It worked out for sure.
Well, and a lot of families don't have the opportunity, right, to hide their kids from the world,
Yeah.
right? And in today's society, it's almost mandatory that you have two incomes that can provide for the family,
Yeah.
which is unique. I remember a time where, again, I guess it came down to intentionality, right?
Yeah.
There was a moment where you said exactly what you said. I don't want to be a single parent. I don't want to be alone in this
Right.
relationship. I have an expectation of
Yeah.
you, right, to show up and be here and to help. And because there was a small season in my life where I'd gotten some pretty unique opportunities to speak and
Absolutely.
travel, and it would have filled the bank count in a big, big way. And I brought that to you, and you were just like, no, not in this season, you know?
You know
And
what?
and I just remember like going like, what do you mean? Like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? Right? Like, how can we not do this?
Yeah.
Right?
I think, just as we're talking, we're just figure outers.
Yeah.
I think when we want what we want, we just figure out how to get it,
Yeah.
right? And so as someone whose probably largest trauma is I don't know my biological father, walking out in the world where you're MIA, 70% of the time,
Sure.
it's not A, it's not serving my trauma,
Right.
clearly.
Right.
But B, I think having had that experience as a child, I wanted my children heavily influenced by their father.
Mm.
And so that came with choosing the routes that we took to get there.
Do you
Um,
regret that now?
no, 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 no. I think what I probably
That I heavily influenced my children.
no, 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 no. Yes, they all love Mexican food. When I would love for them to love all other foods, but yeah, we survive all of that.
Yeah. That's
Um,
one of the good things I taught
it
them,
is,
by
and
the
you
way.
are, and I also raised my kids kind of intentionally, where you were the good guy and I was the bad guy. That's
Mm.
bitten me in the ass a couple of times, and
Mm.
I'm like, I don't love that,
Let's
but
let's let's talk about that for a
okay,
second, all right? Because you brought something up earlier, right? That I was naturally a people pleaser,
yeah,
right? I've never liked conflict per se. I don't want conflict. I've
yeah,
grown very accustomed to conflict now,
yes.
and being in the
And I
battlefield
love
of business.
conflict because
Yeah.
I love devil's
You love
advocacy.
debating,
Yeah,
you love conflict, you battled with aggression and rage.
absolutely.
We talked about that. And I'll never forget, like, coming home from work after what I would consider my own personal battles, right? Like
Right,
battles that you don't know about, right?
right.
That a lot of men and a lot of women also carry in the workspace, and they just want to come home and they just want to land softly somewhere,
Oh,
right?
that would be nice.
And it was like, and it was, I just remember like we didn't have a lot of those moments, right? I mean, there was a lot of still like, and then again, it would be the whole like, I would maybe walk in and, maybe I could see the kids are like, oh, mom's having a bad day. Like,
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
just walk on
Yeah.
eggshells here, and I'd be
Yes.
like, okay,
Yes.
okay, okay, well, what's going on? And my natural reaction would be like, okay, what did the kids do? What have they done wrong?
Mhm.
Right. And I would want to come in and rectify that. But at the same time, I was like, well, if they've already been yelled at today,
Right.
maybe I should just play peacemaker,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
Which is not fair to you, right? Like in that position, that place to where it's like you're going, listen here, I'm always the bad guy.
Yeah.
You always get to play good
Yeah.
cop,
Yeah.
like what the hell?
Again, I think all of those things were kind of sorted through when we chose to not keep showing up in our shame.
Mm,
Right. So, those conversations, if I'm thick in shame of how I've yelled at my kids all day, and you come in and you perpetuate that, right, where
yeah,
I'm, scolded and da 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 da, then it's just double chaos. So
yeah,
what you have to do, what we tend to do is go read a parenting book. How do I do this? How do I do that? I would
hmm,
actually say go into your root systems and figure out why you do what you do, catch yourself doing it,
yeah,
and figure out how to stop doing it.
yeah,
And it's not the same methodology for every person. I've tried numerous ones. Like I said, I mean, I did talk therapy until I would say talk therapy kind of hit its brim on the
hmm,
cup, and then I had to go, you know what, I need more. I need
Yeah.
more. So then I, do a new methodology. So I would say a lot of these things people are listening and they'll go pick up a self-help book and how do I do this differently? And those are great.
Yeah.
But figuring out why you do what you do
Mm.
and what the thickest parts in you that are piled up with shame because
Yeah.
and you can't even almost access them. Start with that. Don't
Sure.
don't pick up a parenting book. Don't even pick up a marriage book.
Yeah.
Go figure out why you do what you do.
Let's talk about that piece, shame, for a second, right?
Yeah.
Because and you brought it, you said something earlier that we've always kind of been safe for each other to talk and have communication and be vulnerable. And I would say we have, right? But
I'm 70%.
but there was a lot of seasons I know personally in my life where I hid things from you.
Yeah.
I mean, out of my own shame,
Yeah.
right? Certain toxic habits that I was trying to escape with, right? Moments that I felt a pressure, right, to perform and be, and I just wanted to run and hide. I mean, moments where I didn't feel like I was enough for you, for the kids, for the businesses, so on and so forth. And so I would find myself in those places where I would feel shame, right? And when I felt shame, I'd want to hide. I'd want to hide from you. I'd want to hide from the openness of the conversation. And I mean, that led from everything to, hiding booze in my cup, right?
Yeah.
At the Little League baseball game versus, whatever. I mean, nothing traumatic enough to where, it cost us everything, but
Yeah.
but just little things that we do in society to check out, right? To
To your
create.
point, that's what we do in society. We actually wait for those moments to happen before we catch ourselves.
Yeah.
I would say the one gift that I've been given from the divine is um, observation.
Mm,
Watching people do what they do, and even more importantly, me being able to watch me.
yeah.
Okay, why did I just exaggerate that?
Sure.
Why did that rub me the wrong way? Why was maybe the tonality of that person and them pigeonholing that, why did that hit me the way that it did?
Mm,
I just don't think we do that enough in
yeah.
our world that we live in, you
Well,
know?
what I don't see a lot of, and this is, when you started operating in these boundary systems, right?
Yeah,
Where it's simple, like, that's fine. If you don't want to do personal therapy, you do you, but
yeah,
I'm gonna go be me. I'm gonna do me, right?
absolutely.
And as I started seeing that and started watching that, the mechanics that I was used to operating in, I couldn't use them anymore. It didn't work anymore,
Yeah.
right?
Well, boundaries help if you're being manipulated in relationships. I mean,
Yeah,
that's what
sure.
boundaries are for. It you become aware, and then
Yeah,
you become aware that either you don't deserve it or it doesn't serve you. And so then you place it. And I'll
yeah.
tell you, the one thing that I can say about boundaries, and I don't know if we fully understand it as a society, but what I would say is it's the hardest thing to do
Mm,
while being the easiest route system to get what you want, if
yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah.
So it is super hard because you're looking at these people, probably family. That's
Mhm.
usually where, and the closer you are in family, that's probably where you're having to implement them the most because you're trying to find your agency,
Sure.
especially when you're an emerging adolescence. If I have learned anything out of my story that I would love to give my kids, it's the same freedom they have when they're going from crawling into walking, and we
Yeah,
don't shame that. We
yeah,
don't, oh my gosh, you should structure your ankles differently or maybe slow down a little bit and da da
yeah,
da da da. I hope what I can give them when, as we release our olders into the world is, hey, the same way you were wobbly there, this is going to be wobbly.
sure.
Maybe never gotten married before, never had kids, never paid a
Yeah,
utility bill, never, had to pay insurance on a car and a house
yeah,
or figure out what you wanted to do in life that gave you joy. Like,
yeah,
I think we are hardest on that age group,
yeah,
and it doesn't give them this ability to be.
yeah,
We just make them doers
yeah.
instead of beers.
Well,
Um,
speaking of doers, right? One of the things that has always been my Achilles heel is distraction, right?
yeah.
Kind of addicted to busy,
Oh gosh,
right?
yeah,
Looking for the next shiny object,
yeah.
right? It was funny. We were sitting there one night with,
Chad and Laura,
yeah,
when we
Chad
were
and Laura,
picking
friends of
songs out,
ours,
yeah,
and we were in the hot tub at the mountains, kind of
Lots of hot
relaxing.
tub, by the
Yeah,
way. That's like a side note. We
we
should have
like the
a
hot
hot tub
tub, and
sponsorship.
but anyway, so Chad was like, "Hey, let's play a game." You get to pick one song that basically identifies who you really are. If
Yeah.
you could pick one song, and of course, it comes around to me, and I'm just like, I don't know, like, let me think about this, and you go, "Oh, I know your song." I mean, like very quick, like, and
Yeah.
I'll go, "Oh, really, Miss Smarty Pants? What's my song?" And you were like, "Never Enough" on The Greatest Showman.
Yeah.
And I remember
And I think our kids could
I think
second
I got
that.
like a little tear in my eye because I was just like, wow. Like, I think she summed up everything I've been trying to understand about myself my entire life, right?
Yeah.
And I would say that's worked for the negative, but it's also worked for the positive.
100%.
Um, you know, I want to talk to marriages out there that are really going through the struggles, right? Not the Instagrammable version of what marriage looks like,
Yeah.
right? Not what we post on social media from time to time, where everybody's smiling. It's the whole Christmas picture analogy, right? Where you're pinching your kid's ear and you're,
Yes. Oh,
you know,
my kids
it,
can amen that too.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you're like, get pick the dog up,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
where's my husband? And I'm coming off work like, do we really have to do this? Why are
Yeah.
we, why are we
Yes.
spending $500 on, and then it's like smile, like ching,
Yeah.
and it's like, and then that's what you send to the world, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But
I mean, our socials are usually our highlights reel.
yeah,
We don't have
listen,
albums anymore. So that's kind of
100%.
like our digital
But the
album.
one thing we challenge ourselves and we promised ourselves, especially when we had this last kind of divine interruption, I think is that we just said no more, right? Like, I mean, I'm 47, you're 45. We're finally learning these healthier ways to communicate, to co-labor with. I mean, we've always been fighters. Exactly what you said. We'll
Yeah,
get
but
in there
I
and
think
figure
we're
stuff
ready to
out.
live our life and not fight for our life. Do
Exactly.
you know? I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's the beauty of, for
Yeah.
me in my 40s.
Yeah.
That's been the beauty. It's like, it's mine.
Sure. But you add that shame piece, right? You add that codependency piece that I'm going to talk about here in a little bit because I didn't realize how codependent I was towards you in our relationship until I really started diving in deep on my own personal therapy and counseling and inner healing and trying to heal the little boy inside of myself. Never even heard language like that. What do you mean heal the little boy
Well,
inside
and
of
real
you?
quick, I mean, this is an example of how boundaries work. The minute that I had these boundaries where it's like, hey, you can't access me for that right here. You can't
Mm,
access
hated
you.
that.
I know, but and it was hard, but
Yeah.
there are these epiphanies that come from not doing it the same way that you've always done it.
Yeah.
Right? Like you almost get stuck in a geared mechanism, right? And then
Yeah.
when a boundary is put up and you can't be passive aggressive, you're not going to allow
Yeah.
someone that's passive aggressive enter here or someone
Yeah.
controls something here, or even leverage another for something you need here,
Yeah.
right? When you see that you're doing these things and it gets, for lack of better words, interrupted,
Yeah.
then you're like, oh, well, what's it? Is there another different way to show up?
Yeah.
Does that exist? And
Yeah.
and what is it? And how's that going to work out? And what are the parts of me that are going to love it, hate it?
Yeah.
And then I have to sit with that.
100%. So let's talk. I want to talk about that. So I go back to this. We talk about this till we're blue in the face, right? But how men versus women, right? Men are for Mars, women are for Venus. That we couldn't be polar opposites on so many different level. I'm kind of a unique breed of individual because I think I do carry a lot of feminine
You
energy.
are a hybrid of all
Yeah,
hybrids
I
for
think I'm
sure.
like obviously I can carry very heavy masculine energy
Very
if I
heavy
need to,
masculine.
but
Yeah.
but I would say I can kind of play kind of in the middle
Well, I
ground,
mean, our first marriage counseling, or our first like session, they sent us home with two books. It was his needs, her needs, and I remember coming back and like we were sitting in our chairs like this and switching the books, and I was like, "Why did you do that? Why did you give that to us?" Because I would say
Yeah,
flip that because I was more his needs and you were more her needs.
yeah, yeah.
So it's
And
been like
and
that
and
from
part of
day
that came
one.
back to the, again, nature nurture choice, how we grew up, how we
Correct.
postured ourselves, how we had to perform, how we had to survive. But I'm thinking about men out there because I remember there was a time where, we'd have conversations about, hey, let's dream together with the family, right? What do we want? Well, we want this. Well, we want you. There was a season where like I'd like to be a stay-at-home mom, right? We first got married. I was staying home with William,
Yeah.
working through men's ministry stuff, and you were a teacher. And then very quickly you were like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to miss these moments in my children's life.
Yeah.
And so we didn't have money. right? We didn't know how in the world we were
Yeah.
going to do
Yeah.
this. I think I cut up all your Target credit cards
Yep.
and anything else I
Yeah.
could cut
Yeah.
up, right?
Yeah.
Because that was the thing. I was just like,
Oh, yeah. Well, that was my addiction, right? Like just retail therapy.
yeah,
Now I'm on the other end of it,
yeah,
know,
yeah.
but
You thought you'd married a rich ex actor,
yeah.
so you thought I had a hidden stash somewhere.
Well, no, I
That's
knew I was in trouble. And you talk about the ADD and entrepreneurship. I knew I was in trouble when I'm graduating with a degree, getting ready to take a contract, right, to teach, not shortly after finding out I'm pregnant.
yeah.
And that was not planned. And so you had a job like with an insurance company. And I remember, I think you kept it for like 6 months
Mm.
and you
I
quit.
don't think I lasted that long.
And I just
Yeah,
remember like, oh
I
my
married
God,
that
I've
guy.
married that guy.
I just married that
I
guy.
married that guy.
Yeah, yeah. It's so funny because I wore that as an insecurity for so many years
Yeah.
because just comments that were made, like, I would start things, I would quit them, wouldn't finish, and not always growing up. I mean, I was obviously very OCD about certain accolades with sports and my acting stuff and whatever. But I always had this dreamer mind. It was that ADD, the little boy that couldn't sit in the back of the room and concentrate on what the teacher's saying. My mind was somewhere else, right,
Yeah.
in a
Well, the
fairy tale.
world's way of accessing for this situation, I guess it would be money or provision. You just are not the type of person that goes on the way that it's presented to you.
Mm.
You just like to color outside the lines.
Yeah.
That's what it's like being
Yeah,
married.
like when you tricked me when we got married and I thought I was marrying a blue-eyed girl
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and you had
Yeah.
blue contacts on.
I, d-
And
I
then we finally got married and I see these beautiful brown eyes, but it was like what? I just
Well,
got
it's what you
tricked,
do in adolescence, right?
you
You
know?
try all these things on. Am I this? Am I that? And I think
Yeah.
we need more of that in the world, like
Yeah.
so that I do have a heart for these kids coming out of college, these kids, whether it's starting a career or, a family, a
Hmm.
marriage, whatever. I just feel like we have all this support for the moms with the toddlers and this and that,
Yeah.
but we don't have the support of them emerging into the world.
Yeah.
And there is something about your 40s. William and I were watching a movie last night. I think it's called Train Dreams, and the premise of the movie is you're watching how the world and
Hmm.
its industry is promoting, right? And it's
Yeah.
growing and it's emerging, while you're also watching his life emerge, right? He's
Hmm.
starting his family, he's being a provider.
Yep.
But here is what we do. And this is what we do as a society.
Yeah.
We get so caught up, we put so much energy because of all the shame, I think, because we try to prove ourselves out of shame versus understanding that shame resilience is authenticity. And this is
Sure.
Brene Brown's work of
Sure.
like, if I live a vulnerable, authentic life, so it's exposed,
Hmm.
there is no shame that haunts me,
Sure.
right? So if I talk about I was a rageful mom, I'm not hiding from that.
That's right.
I'm going, hey, this is something from a traumatic childhood that I picked up as a control mechanism.
Hmm.
And then as I observed myself, I watched it not work.
Yeah.
And then I actually watched it push everyone that I loved further from me.
Mm.
And then I'm carrying and bringing children in the world that I'm creating fear in them to obey me,
Mm.
right? We don't say this out loud, but when you say it like that, you're like, oh, girl,
Mm.
like you need to work on that, even though
Yeah.
it's happening 24/7.
Sure.
Oh, especially in my opinion, religious settings,
Sure.
right? This control thing that we just go after,
Yeah.
obedience and all of that, and we're not allowing for the conversation of like,
Man.
hey, that didn't serve me with my family. So
Sure.
back to the point, what I think that we do is we get in this shame-filled thing and we just go after proving ourselves. And I think what I realized, especially watching that movie last night, is it's actually in the ordinary where the magic is.
Yeah.
But what we do is we spend all of our time chasing the extraordinary.
Mm.
And we're missing out. So what happens in this movie is he goes and he's chasing it. He's a logger for the railroad, company. And then his wife and child is gone. And
Mhm.
so he's worked all of
Yeah.
this. He's got this home and he's by himself.
Yeah.
And I wish sometimes if you're thinking about therapy or you're thinking about doing some embodiment work or inner world work,
Yeah.
hold space for if you're chasing something and you're missing the magic, what is the point of that chase?
Man. Well, and I think it's because we live in a society where we want this instant fix, right? We want this quick approach to life. But the way I look at it, it took 35, 37 years of us creating our own mechanisms of checking out, not understanding our true self, hiding, shame, nobody was talking about vulnerability. I mean, thank God for Brene
Oh
Brown
my
when she
gosh,
came
yeah.
out with, that kind of approach to wait a minute, you can actually share your feelings and you can be vulnerable about it, right? Especially for a man, that's like super difficult, right?
Yeah.
But that segues something really cooler because I was just thinking that like I remember the time you were like the family vision. I want to be a homeschool mom. I want to stay at home, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna work. I don't care if it takes 2 jobs, 3 jobs, whatever it is, and that kind of led us on this journey. And then fast forward ahead, I remember like moments where I would see you dissatisfied or frustrated or your exact words. Sometimes you'd be like, you control me. You're controlling me.
Yeah.
You get to make the rules and you get to make all the money and you don't. And I was like, wait a minute, what? Like, and I'll never forget this. Like, it's my turn to dream. I want to dream. I want to go out and
Yeah.
build something.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what the hell? You've been building something. I mean, look at these 4 amazing kids. Like I couldn't have done any of
Yeah.
this without you, right? Like you built the home, you did this, you did that. And it was like, but yet there was this space as a man where I'm going, did I miss something? I thought this was I thought this was our family vision. I thought this is what she wanted.
Yeah.
Now I'm controlling. Now I'm running the scenario. Now I'm, squashing your dreams or your potential. And I just remember going, that is so far fetched for me as a man to think like, what am I missing here? Right. My point is, I think there's a lot of marriages that are operating in that we see every day. Right.
Oh, the
That
traditional marriage.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and we've never been really traditional, right?
Oh, no, we started out traditional. I was Martha Stewart with, like, the apron
That
and
is
all the
true.
things.
That
No,
is
we
true.
started that
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
And
You remember
wish
that when I was in my modeling days, and you would have a hot apple pie baked for me
yeah.
when I came home.
Yeah, I called you a sissy a
And
couple of
and I
times.
would go, "Babe, I love you. This smells delicious. I want this, but I can't eat it. I got the shoot, blah, blah, blah." And you'd be like,
You
"You
sissy.
sissy.
Yeah,
You
I
sissy."
did.
And then I got fat, and you were like, "Wait a minute. What happened here?"
I need you to
You
earn
know?
money, again.
Well, those days are over,
Yeah.
but no, for real though, there's just the marriages that we have a tendency to watch and see,
Mhm.
and we can relate to this because we've been there.
Yeah.
We're still there in certain regards, right? Is that they're not having enough of the open, honest conversations, right? And they're hard, right? They're hard. And by the way, a lot of people are so pre-programmed to not even know what they think, know what they feel, right?
We are on autopilot,
Yeah.
and that's I always call therapy the moment that I woke up, right?
Mm,
And there's different variations of waking up. I mean, when you wake up in the morning, you don't just like sit up and you're awake.
sure,
For some of us, some mornings it's just a little bit more like this morning, just pause, get into life slowly.
sure.
Um, for me, that was therapy. I woke up.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you ever think I would do therapy?
well, so that's a funny conversation when full circle to the beginning of um what we're talking about is the hot tub moment. And
Yeah.
I'll never forget, we I would go to therapy and we would schedule hot tub moments for like if my therapy session was that Wednesday night would be like hot tub time or whatever. And so we
Yeah.
could talk about what I was learning. And it's funny, I don't think it was in those moments that you necessarily saw the change as much as like I didn't lose my shit,
Right.
during like the laundry piling up or the
Sure.
dog, peeing on something, whatever.
Sure.
And I was able to like truly shift behaviors.
Yeah.
I think that was for you. But the hot tub conversations were
Kind of
always
scared me to see you
interesting.
so nice.
Yeah, well, and then so you would start kind of in those conversations going, I wonder what I could be looking at or what this
Sure.
is or what in my childhood or
Right.
whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I remember going, what would probably serve you best is having a woman therapist to be able to get like on the
Mm.
other side of a woman.
Yeah. That
And
was a curse word.
you were like, never in a million years, essentially. And come to find out over what I think 6 months, you ended up finding Catherine and working with her, and it was the magic, right? Like,
Yeah.
so it's
I told
case.
her you got 3 sessions to fix me. Go.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And she's
And
quietly.
yeah, 3 years later, she's like, "There's no fixing you.
Yeah.
It's this." Yeah.
Well, there's you finding you and
Right.
embodying you and releasing yourself from shame so you can show up in the world in the fullest version of yourself. I
Yeah.
think this is even where we get into, I think religion does it and society does it, where we get into this us them,
Sure.
right? Like that we walk around in the world like us versus them. And I think this work for me and the deconstruction and reconstruction of my faith.
Yeah.
I want to be the best version of myself,
Yeah.
to show up in a world, to be the hands and feet of the divine, to
Sure.
love people well,
Sure.
right? Like that's the reason you do the work. You don't do the work for this selfish, lots of boundaries, get the life that you want. You actually want the life that you want to refill you
Mhm.
and fuel you to be the best version of yourself, to love the world the way that it was intended to be loved.
Yeah.
Um,
What was it like to be married to a highly ADD
yeah,
personality as well, but a serial entrepreneur, right? Somebody that wanted to chase the next thing, wanted to build the next business. I think that's why we got into remodeling
yeah,
houses, right? I love the idea of taking something broken, making it new. But there were a lot of seasons in there that I know were challenging for you, and I asked a lot of you.
yeah.
But there were also a lot of moments where you really showed up for me in ways when I felt like there was too much pressure, right? That ultimately you would want to relieve that. You would want to step up and help kind of relieve that. You want to share what that felt like?
Well, before I share what it feels like, I think one thing that I have in me is this very unique, braided personality of someone who is control freak, Martha Stewart, aesthetically likes something a certain way,
Yeah,
right? So I can be that type A, very organized.
yeah,
And on the same in the same place, I
yeah,
can be this wild gypsy philosopher that's like, oh, let's have the experience and learn something,
yeah.
right? Like, who cares? Like, okay, if it all goes to the wayside, then we're going to get real creative on how we rebuild it. And
Sure.
maybe we change the bricks into slate, then we get, I think I've always been able to see every time you pivot and change as an opportunity, maybe to choose a different material or lay it differently, and then see how it works for us. So, if
Yeah,
does that make sense? So on
sure.
one end, super hard because I like it this way and I like this amount of money and I
Hmm.
like, all the resources here and I like for it to be a certain way. And I will tell you this last 2 years, hardest 2 years of my entire
Tough.
life. And it probably challenged the gypsy soul in me more than
Mm.
it's ever
Take
done.
take me back to that story real quick. So this has happened multiple times in our career,
Hmm.
my personal business career, where I've just gotten to the point where I wanted to reinvent myself or recreate myself. I was getting tired of the mundane, of the old in my mind, right? Like living very comfortably, and all of a sudden we chose to go, let's not be
So
comfortable and let's
I'm
jump
I'm
off the
gonna
ledge.
say what your challenge is, though. You're a loyalist. And so I
True.
think up until the last 2 years, you didn't realize that you were really good at starting things.
Yeah.
um that's your genius, right? um but you put it in the vessel of thinking you had to fully hold it all the time,
Yeah.
which if you can just honor what you're really good at is starting things, you're able to hold it, carry it to where it needs to
Mhm.
be, and when it can walk on its own two legs,
Yeah.
you can release it.
Or now hire out your weaknesses,
Yeah, or
right?
hire out your weaknesses, or
Yeah.
not be a control freak. Actually, let this piece of it go.
Sure.
It's really not important to you as much as you
Yeah.
think it is.
Yeah.
So I think this last round revealed a lot of those little
What
tendencies
did
in
I ask
us.
you to do? Take me back to Antigua, sitting over there, having mimosas,
Yeah,
having a
I
breakfast
mean, you
together.
you asked to reinvent yourself, and really, it wasn't too crazy. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but we were going to take one real estate portfolio, close that one out, and put it all into one.
Yeah.
So on a level, it looked easier.
But I didn't know that for sure,
No, I
you
know,
know?
but there's still,
Yeah.
the devil's advocate in me is like, oh, he thinks this is going to be hard. I'm over here trying to find all the ways that it's going to be easy.
Yeah.
So A, I love change. B, instead of 15, rentals in this, we just have this 90 room hotel,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can tend to be the person that, sees that glass. Oh, this is good. This is
Yeah.
going to save us. Um, to a deficit for me. This was the first time that I think I talked myself into being able to jump off the ledge.
Hmm.
And then as I'm falling for the first time in 45 years
Yeah.
or 43 at the time, I'm like, what the actual hell? This is one of those, like, not necessarily regrets, but the fall was going so fast and I felt so out of control, which in the beauty and hindsight, I was able to learn some stuff because it was the first time
Man,
I was in that scenario, right?
man.
Where I couldn't make it what I wanted it to
But it was
be.
a real interruption. I mean,
This was
it's
the biggest interruption
and
of our
that's what
life.
this podcast is for, right?
Yeah.
Is to talk about the interruptions that we're not really talking about. And but guess what? Sometimes until you have the interruption, you don't know what's really going on
Here's
inside
the
your
deal.
soul.
I don't
You
know if
know,
a lot of people allow for interruptions.
some people don't. Some people don't,
I
you know?
I would even argue to say the percentage is 80% of you out there don't even live your life in such a way that you are open to
Mm.
something, yes, that could be chaotic or unfamiliar, but could also be your magic.
Yeah. Well, safety is such an important thing for all of us, right? And however
Would
however we
right?
find that,
Yeah.
we find that, right? And I mean, there's many times where I've lived our life and go, I don't necessarily want our kids to have to live that life, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm hoping that, that our ceiling is going to become their floor, right?
And I
For
do
for
think it
for their
works.
emotional regulation
Yeah.
to, how they decide they want to work and what jobs they want to take on. And so some of the
Yeah.
times I look like we've brought this on
Yeah.
ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Like we have put more pressure on ourselves with these high intense situations. I mean, listen, you were asked, I mean, you had your dream home, right? You had your dream
Yeah.
home. You were full. This is where you're born and raised in Atlanta. It's what you'd always known. Of course, I'm originally from Kentucky. Went to Los Angeles from LA to Atlanta, but we'd built a house there and a home there and a family there for 23 years, right? We
Oh,
never thought
yeah.
we were coming back.
A school community. I mean,
Yeah.
when you homeschool, your community is
And even you're
everything.
always up for a great adventure, but
Yeah.
like, we went from an 8,000 square foot, gorgeous home to living in an apartment that we renovated,
Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
was beautiful.
Yeah.
But 2,000 square foot apartment. These are first world problems here, right? But we had three hormonal teenage kids. We had left William in college in Atlanta,
Yeah.
which was, I know, very tough for you as well.
Yes.
It was just a very stressful season, right?
Yeah.
And I think there were moments, and then you were starting a business, right? You were starting a business at that
Yeah.
time. We had the Magnolia Network TV thing happening. I was in knee deep into the hotel. We had the Hershey movie
If you're
project going.
exhausted after hearing this on this
I'm
podcast,
exhausted even saying it
yeah.
again, right?
Yeah, that was
But
our life.
but somehow, and again, I think that's what we always did well, right? We got in the
Here's the deal. It I say magic, right? Like you don't allow for interruptions to find magic.
yeah.
Definitely didn't feel like magic
No, it didn't.
during, right?
No.
However, this is what I mean by the magic really is in the
Do you
ordinary and
remember
not the extraordinary.
we had the production company down here doing pre-filming for the
Yeah.
TV show, putting
No,
together the
yeah, and
film.
I cried. Yes. And
And we walked into that apartment and you were seeing everything and I was doing the performing thing. I was like, come on, you got to go. We got this, we got that. I'm running all
well,
that.
I think that was the moment where I realized maybe the girls were going to have to share a bedroom. And I
Yeah.
just knew, I'm like,
And you were like wanting to have these deep conversations with me about the layout of the property. And I'm like, get your film hat on. Like
yeah,
we're about to get in front of a camera.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And of course I was being so inconsiderate and I was being pushy and I was getting agitated and you were frustrated and getting agitated. And boom, next thing you know, you're crying. I'm like, don't cry. You can't cry. The producer's walking around,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, what in the actual hell are we doing right now?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Well, and truth be told, even that little, I mean, I think the reason that was just a one timer is I'd hoped that would be what this is, that we
Mm,
could be the authentic version.
yeah.
I know it probably doesn't make for great TV, but I think women need to see when you have a husband that dreams big, and now we're sitting in a place where people are like, "Oh, your husband's in film, and you have a hotel and restaurant and all this," and
Mm.
they're like accolades, accolades, and what has
You're like,
always
you want
been
me?
my MO is you have no idea what that costs.
Yeah.
Like you see that, but and it's no different than making $5 for one person doesn't look the same as making $5 for other. You got people
Yeah.
that dig ditches and wells, and you have some that sign over one contract to a real estate person and they can make $50,000 in one little signature, right? So
Sure.
uh, sometimes we forget that when someone builds something, we think it looks the same way for everyone. And we forget that for someone to make $5 and another person to make $5, it could be totally different efforts and chaoses.
Sure.
And magics for that matter, right? Inheritance or whatever that looks like. So I think you have to be very careful when you see someone's success is to assume, wow, like, I mean, I think people in my life think that maybe family handed it down to us or this and that is comical for me, because I would say the magic of us is not only are we self-made, we're self-made in attempting to build family at the same time.
It's tough,
right? And that's the priority for us. So that cost us more.
And we fumbled a lot of that. I mean, right? I mean, the reality is we didn't know what the hell we were doing.
But it cost us more because when you were leaving, 3 weeks out of the month to go handle hotel stuff, I'm like, I'm not doing the single wife life. I'm not doing that. And so it cost us having to move.
There is no doubt, and I want to say this as encouragement to you specifically, that I believe that we're called in marriage to be helpmates, right? That we really are called to help one another become better versions of who we are, right? And not that you can't get there if you're single, right? Not that you can't get there if you decide marriage is not for you or a partner's not for you. That's your business. But for me, it's like there were moments where you called things out of me, right? And really demanded things out of me that used to really frustrate the crap out of me, right? Like it just, because to me, I just heard I'm not enough. I'm not enough. I'm not enough. I'm still not enough. I'm not enough, right?
That's that shame component.
Yeah. But then there would be somewhere through that, and maybe it was a ebb and flow balance, a give and take balance, where it would allow me to kind of find another gear inside of myself to go, you know what she's asking is not really I mean, it's not unreasonable, right? It's actually manageable, and it's manageable if I do X, Y, Z. And at the end of the day, I think what I'm seeing a lot in marriages is that we're not taking the time to really listen to the other person, right? To find out what the needs are, to find out what the expectations are, right? Because quite frankly, those are hard conversations.
Yeah.
I
think sometimes too, back to that one conversation, it's us, them. I think sometimes we take that in our marriage and you get into self-preservation because maybe you want something that you want. And that becomes the bullseye in your life. And you forget there's all these other things in your life that surround that. And I think when we get hyper-focused, we forget, we're doing this for all of our people. Why would we make them the enemy? We're doing it for them. But it's what we in our humanity to, like, I guess the person closest to you gets all the chaos. I think that if you can be that for each other while you hold each other with some safety and fragility and understand, like, it's messy. And someone's already probably, like you said, inner dialogue, inner critic. I think with you, what growth factors have happened between you and I is I've become very aware of your inner critic. So I've had to learn how to be careful when I want to put that on steroids, right? Because I want what I want. So I'm just going to, this is when you've been married for over 20 years, what buttons and pulleys
and you're like, if I go much further, he's going to end up in a nut house.
And I'll get what I want at his expense.
Right.
And so I think true partnership is, what am I willing to let go of so that he does feel like he is enough? Because sometimes that's not just going to come in a wrapped up dialogue, right?
That's good.
I can't just preach that to you. I'm going to have to lean in and show you. So for instance, for me, some of the hardest work that I've done is I'm like, you're a workaholic, you're a workaholic, you're a workaholic. I get this business and I want to see it grow, and it starts to grow.
I lost my wife.
Yeah. And you're like, where are you at? And it's this double standard now, right? Like, remember all the ways in which you used to tap and poke him that he worked late or he did that. And now you're having to do it because you're getting the opportunity to grow another type of kid, right? Like this business.
I mean, it really probably brings a whole new appreciation to you.
I wish that I had that. I do wish that I had a little bit of
businesses and
lived experience to be able to have the not sympathy, but empathy, right? Which
Yeah.
is the actual walking out of feeling for someone.
Yeah.
I wish I would have had that. But at the end of the day, whether you have the experiences and you can empathize or not, if you cannot make the other person the enemy,
Yeah.
if you can make them your confidant, if you can lean in a little bit to create a little bit more safer places.
Yeah.
And again, it also comes back to agency. When you're not judging the hell out of your partner, why is he doing that? Why this and this? But you can see your partner actively working on addictions or working on inner dialogue or working on inner parts, right? Like all of the things. When you watch them do the work, give them a little room
100%.
to do the work.
I mean, you think about that word intimacy, right? Intimacy, right? We don't, if we don't create enough safety where we can at least get in the same room and have respect and honest conversations with each other, then you can't make it. All right. I know we got to wrap up. I could do this all day long.
I know.
All right. And we do this all day
Yes,
long,
we
but
do.
we'll save another episode. First off, thanks for being here. I love you. You're a very smart woman.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you for all your wisdom. But last question I just got. Why do you think I see so many marriages out there? And again, marriage has always been a passionate thing for you and I, right? We want every marriage to win, and we believe they can win. We believe they can be restored as long as two people are choosing to do the work. Right. That's the kicker. Two people have to make a choice to not give up and do the work. And I've heard somebody wrote a book on this, and I read that, if you would spend as much time, fertilizing, watering your own yard, right, as you would the neighbor's yard, for example, then you would have what you really desire. Why did we never give up? I mean, because God knows we wanted to so many times. Why did we not give up? Was it our faith? What was it?
I think we're loyalists to again, that's been to a fault on several occasions, but I think we're also embodied loyalists, I should say. And the reason I say it like that, I think wanting to be the best version of yourself, at the willingness to watch why you do what you do and tweak the things that don't serve you, even though they are comfort blankets, right? Like for me to sit here in this chair and say anger and rage was comforting to me, that's probably chaos to someone listening. But for me, being able to like release that anger and scream and just be like frustrated was like, I got it out. So now as I'm watching myself and I'm loyal to being embodied safely within my own world, inner world, I can go, hey, you know what? That's not serving myself. That's not serving my kids. Is there something else I can pick up? So for me, it's moments in the morning, it's meditation, it's prayer, it's worship, it's women taking a shower because you're 4 kids in 5 years. It gets hairy. I guess I would say we didn't quit because we're loyal to that inner divine. I know you, I see you. I'm calling greater for you to be loved to the world. Right. Like I think there's that loyalty within both of us that it's like, okay, how can we let interruptions serve us? Because they're coming.
That's right.
And they're probably going to ask us to quit. And it's probably going to ask us to have that moment of rage or that moment to like just lean on alcohol or that moment to like eat our cares away. Right. Or honestly, get disembodied so you don't have to feel the pain of this change or this shift. The magic happens when you're in it, though, when you are not autopiloting and you're getting the ability to approach your topography and land where you want to land.
Man, so good. Well, guys, if you're out there watching, I hope that what you've heard is encouraging, but I also hope what you've heard here is that this is a transparent, vulnerable conversation of two people that have chosen not to give up over and over and over again. And it has absolutely not been easy. And there have been moments where it is not fun and it is stressful. And I didn't feel like I was enough. She didn't feel like she was enough. But if you're out there and you're in that position right there, I would just encourage you, don't give up on each other. Give each other the grace, like my wife said, to follow each other and give each other opportunities to grow together simultaneously.
And also don't stay stuck in bad relationship. You can't change another. So anytime you're in a relationship where the other person doesn't want to do the work,
Yeah.
if you're waking up and intention changes for another, like you have your intention, I want to be the best version of myself in the relationship that I'm in.
Yeah.
I want to be the best version for them. I want to grow together. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. You can go very far with that. But you're not guaranteed your partner's going to wake up the next morning with that same intention.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
And that's what C.S. Lewis says. Love is risk.
Love is risk.
Right. And so I would also encourage you, if the other person is not, you can't make them.
Right.
You can't make them. So you may have to like look at boundaries or look at,
Sure.
don't stay in toxicity.
Right.
That's just codependency. That's
Yeah.
not serving anyone.
Well, we'll definitely come back to that in another episode of codependency, because that would take a full hour
Yeah,
itself.
no, that's over an hour.
Babe, thank you for being on the show, EnterUp Podcast. I couldn't be here without you, and I'm happy to say after 47 years, you are my best friend, and
Same.
we're getting closer to falling more and more in love every single day.
We're figuring it out for sure.
That's a fun thing. Guys, I hope you were encouraged today. Thanks again for joining the EnterUp Podcast. Please don't forget to follow all of our social media platforms. And if you like this, please subscribe. And until next time, we'll see you soon. Keep living. Thank you for spending time with me today. Remember, it's not about pretending the story is finished. It's about having the courage to keep writing it, even in the middle. If this podcast has encouraged you or inspired you in any ways, please follow us at enterupwithwill.com and across all social media platforms. And please like, subscribe, and share for more. Until next time, keep showing up, keep rising, and keep choosing to enter up.